you might get sacked on tonight's episode of the Draft Beard Podcast. Hey guys, I'm your host, Joshua Klein, a host of the Draft Beard Podcast. Thank you guys so much for making it out tonight for tonight's big episode. We have a big one because we have 17 edge rushers that we're going to go over, my top 17 edge rushers for the 2025 NFL Draft. But before we get there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I really appreciate it. That helps get this content out to those people who are NFL fans of the NFL Draft, or sports enthusiasts in general. So don't forget, like, subscribe, and share. I would really appreciate it. So we have a big episode tonight. Yes, we're going to go over my top 17 edge rushers in this year's draft. Now, my rationale for how many I pick, and I'm going to discuss on my final ranking show, is I look at who are the top day one and day two players. So that's rounds first, second, and third. Then I kind of just rank them from that regard. That way I'm not ranking everyone. You've noticed some of my episodes have been a little shorter. Some of them, like this one, are way longer than others. And that's because this year's edge class, I have 17 edge rushers. Yes, you heard that right. 17 with at least first, second, or third round grades. That's 17 edge rushers. You could hear their names called on the first 2 days of the draft. And there are plenty more beyond that. So I look at my rankings of edge rushers, I have almost 30 edge rushers with fifth round grade and above on my draft board. So it is a very, very deep class this year at edge rusher. It's not as phenomenal at the top. Like, remember the tackle class, that class has a lot of players who are really high in the top 10 to 15. In this case, you got, obviously, we'll get to the end of the podcast, but it's not really spoiling anything to know that who the top guy is in this class. But you got one guy who should go in the top 5 of this draft. Jumbled up on who you think is the top edge rushers. Is there that much difference from, say, edge rusher 2 down to edge rusher 7, 8, 9, 10? So it's a very deep class, but there isn't a lot of separation. There isn't a lot of differing tiers in this class. So it's a fun class. There's a lot of different flavors for each scheme, and I'll get started right away because we got 17 of these guys to go over. Number 17 is Ashton Gillotte, the edge out of Louisville. He is a senior, 6'3", around 270 pounds. He has a very compact, powerful frame, super smart. He was a first-team All-ACC player. He's got an explosive first step, diverse pass rush moves, good relentless motor. So got an elite, explosive first step. I think he had a 19.9 miles per hour on the GPS. He beats tackles to the corner very well. He's really quick at generating pressures. He's got good versatile moves, a good bull rush, swim move, go to rip move. He uses his long arm, inside spin. He wins inside, outside. So he's got a really good big toolbox, good power. He has a compact build, uses his pad level well. He does pretty good at setting the edge. I mean, at 85.7 PFF run defense grade, he uses his hands, anticipates well, plays with a relentless high-end motor, recognizes different schematic schemes to run in on offense. He had 26 and a half sacks over his 37 games and posted a 36-inch vertical. He's an athletic guy, maybe a little smaller, a little thin. His arm length is a little short at 32 and a half. He doesn't have great bend to his game, right? So he lacks elite hip and ankle flexibility. He's not great at consistently timing the snap. He has adequate but not elite change of direction skills. He can get stuck on blocks from time to time. Not a guy that you're going to want to throw out there in coverage. So you might not be a really good 3-4 outside linebacker if that's the way you're looking at using him. I think he would fit more of a 4-3 as a base defensive end there, or maybe a 3-4 end maybe. He can use his power and leverage more, I think, in the 4-3. I think where could he fit? Carolina, Atlanta, The Giants, does he fit the Detroit Lions? So you need some edge rushers. I have a comp to Ashton Gillotte as like a Jonah Ellis who went to the Denver Broncos last year, a Keon White, Josh Sweat. Those are all guys I liked coming out of the draft. So I think he's a polished, high motor edge rusher. Definitely see him going in day 2 of the NFL draft. And again, this class has a lot of players. I think he has a decent floor, still has a decent ceiling to his game. I think teams are going to like him a lot. Could develop into something more, but I think you're getting a good rotational piece in Ashton Gillotte. Number 16, and this is going to be Landon Jackson, the edge out of Arkansas. Now, this is one of my guys that, he's one of my, I would say, overvalued prospects in the draft. He's tall, 6'7", 280 pounds, got a massive frame. He was a first-team All-SEC. He is dominant in the run game. He does an okay job at creating consistent pocket pressure. He has that elite length. He is tall, 33 and 5/8 inch arms, 82 and 3/4 inch wingspan, overwhelms blockers with his reach. He's really good at setting the edge. He is an edge setting defensive lineman. Good active hands, uses his cross chop in his arms very well. He is a power guy. He is going to use power. He converts speed to power effectively. It's kind of what I meant to get at. He uses that bull rush well. He's got a really good motor. He can play anywhere from the 3 technique all the way out to the wide 9. He's really good at maintaining gap integrity. He doesn't do the missed assignment thing. He knows his assignment. He plays it well. He was ridiculous at the combine. 4.68, 40, 90th percentile, 98th percentile, the 40.5 inch vert. I mean, and he was a captain. So there's a lot to like there. Now, why am I so much lower than on Landon Jackson than a lot of the other draft people out there? You hear some talk of him going in the first round. Here's the thing. The combine was a little bit of a surprise to me because what you see him play and his ability, you don't see that kind of athleticism on the field. He has really tight hips. He just is not able to his game. He plays his high cut frame causes him to have some pad level issues. He allows blockers to get underneath him. He does not have an explosive first step. It's average to above average. He has absolutely no pass rush plan. He relies only on his power moves, which is weird when you see a guy that tests so athletic, but on film displays none of that athleticism. He's had some injury histories with an ACL, broken ankle, leg injury in 2021, and he just doesn't finish very well. Landon Jackson is going to come into this league and he is going to be an exceptional, stout, run defending defensive end. He's got to learn to pass rush. Now, it's not that you haven't seen glimpses of that on film in different games, but I just don't see a guy who has exceptional pass rushing ability. He's going to be a really good 4-3, base 4-3 end who can set the edge, use his length very well. If he can learn to utilize his athleticism, find a way to get some bend around, use his speed to get around the end, get some more tools in the toolbox. It's totally different scenario with Landon, but I wasn't as high on him. He kind of stayed right there in that bottom half of the second round into the third round when I was grading him. It never wavered. It never moved. But, the Pajama Olympics didn't change my opinion of him. I went back, did a little bit of reassessment to his game, but that's just is where his game is, right? He'd be a really good complementary defensive end who's going to set the edge. He kind of reminded me a little bit of Jalen Phillips, the Miami Dolphins. Greg Rousseau is kind of like maybe the top end ceiling of where I see Landon could go, but he's just too stiff, doesn't have enough bend to his game. And I can be wrong. You can develop into something. I've been wrong plenty of times. In fact, the guy I just comped, Greg Rousseau, I was not as high on him coming out when he came into the draft a few years ago. But again, one of the guys that I'm not as high on in the consensus, there aren't as many of those this year where I feel just completely different than what most draft people out there, and that's Landon Jackson. Next up, number 15 is going to be David Walker, the edge rusher out of Arkansas. He's small in that 6'1", around that 260 range. So he doesn't have the ideal height, really small arms, but he has all of the ability that you like to see if you want to see a guy who can be a situational pass rusher or a really good pass rusher at the NFL level. He has an explosive first step, absolute quick get off. It allows him to attack gaps, stresses those tackles immediately, really active hands. He has a lot of tools in the toolbox, two-handed swipes, rips, cross chops, swim moves, utilizes those moves very well. He gets speed to power on those bull rushes and inside counters, plays with a relentless motor, sets a firm edge, has very natural leverage, was absolutely an very productive at the FCS level, and how that translates. So the production is there, good lateral agility. That's where you get into, he has all of the things that you look for on film to be a really good pass rusher at the NFL level. But the thing is, he's small. Just doesn't have the length with his body or his arms. He needs to put on some weight, but can he play at that same speed if he does put on some weight? His bend is okay at times. He does lose some of it. He's a little inconsistent at times. Tends to be a little bit over aggressive, so at times he can lose contain. Still could develop those counter moves a little bit better after he gets that initial pushback against him. But here's a guy, he's a little older. I think he could be a stand-up 3-4 outside linebacker. Here's the thing. Is he going to be a situational pass rusher, or can he be an every down pass rusher? I think he plays the run enough. It's just I worry about that size and that frame. He can be a little over aggressive. I think he can line maybe as a 7 tech, wide 9 to attack those angles. Maybe he could play as a rotational 4-3, but I really see him more as an outside linebacker, 3-4. Is he going to be anything more than a DPA? That's what I worry about. That's the floor for his game, is a really good situational designated pass rusher. He can be more than that. You look at him and you go, his ceiling is super high. So his floor is going to be on a roster, third down, put him in an ASCAR package, maybe a little bit more because he at least is functional against the run. He can play the run. But he has a really high look at his game, man. If he can just figure it out, really good comparison to maybe be a Harold Landry, the now current New England Patriot. So I get why some people are really, really high on David Walker. Completely understand that. Got to temper it a little bit with that jump from the FCS up to the NFL level. So at worst, a low floor, a player who can maybe last in the league for quite a while, just getting to the quarterback. But the ceiling is super high with him. If he can prove his game against NFL tackles, man, he has all of the ability that you see. You see it. He has all the ability to develop into a really special pass rusher in the NFL. That takes me to number 14, and this is Olumuyife Oladijo, where it goes by Femi Oladijo. This guy is one of my favorite players in this class. He's raw. He's a tantalizing edge product who moved from linebacker over to edge in 2024. He's 6'3.25", around 260 pounds, 333 and an H in arms. He's got really good athleticism. Man, he has a quick first step, a physical run defender. He does set a very firm edge, really good leverage and torque. His power pops. He's got really heavy hands. He's muscular, right? Really good at knocking back those tackles on contact. Relentless, does not stop. He is going sideline to sideline. He runs those runners down from the backside. You could tell that he used to play linebacker. That's where he gets it from. I can align in varying alignments between 3 technique, 5 technique, wide 9. He's already familiar with playing outside linebacker. So if you wanted to use him as maybe a pass rushing Sam, 3-4 outside linebacker, I think he has that ability. He does a good job at the cross chops and rip moves using a 2-handed swipe. He has really elite athleticism and elite speed. The problem is he doesn't know what to do yet. He doesn't have a very good cohesive strategy in his pass rush plan. The hand usage in placement and timing are inconsistent. Did he display really good bend? I still think he's kind of stiff, plays at a high pad level. You just can see the inexperience in his game. But what you saw in that limited amount of time in a year leaves you tantalizing. They think that there's so much more that you can get out of there, right? Like he just popped open, the pop, and it's just starting to fizz out. I think there's a lot to his game. When I started doing the research on the edge class this year, he was way down in the draft board. He was someone that a lot of people maybe had as a late day 3, 6, 7th round UDFA type player. But the more and more you just watched his game, man, I really fell in love with watching the way this kid played and how he had only done it for a year. I think his ideal fit maybe as a stand-up outside linebacker, play him in a 3-4. I do think he can fit in a 4-3, maybe play him as a Sam linebacker. I think he can play on the line a little bit. It's just hard to tell when he's only had 1 year where he can actually fit. So he's got some pliableness to where we can kind of plug him in at. So if you're running a hybrid 3-4 or 4-3, I think he could fit there as well. I kind of see him as like a Josh Uche type player, but with a little bit more length and size to him. Really like the projection. The floor, I'm not sure where that floor is. Is it really just a rotational backup? That's maybe where I see it, but he can develop into, a stud player. You see a lot of players like him who have come from the later rounds in the 3rd round, develop into a really good pass rusher. He could go higher than the 3rd round. I do have a 3rd round grade on him, but I really like Femi a lot. He's one of my guys in this draft. I think a team, if you have some patience, some coaching that can develop him, I think he could turn out to be a star in this league, but his floor is pretty low. It's kind of hard to figure out. So he's a high risk, high reward player. Those are the types of guys that I like to take later in the draft. I don't like to do that with guys, the top 10 or the 1st round. So I like Femi Oladipo quite a bit. And that takes me to my next guy on the list, and that is one of the guys from Ohio State, and that is JT Tuimoloau. He's a versatile, powerful edge rusher from the University of Ohio State. He was a 5-star recruit, really good disciplined run defender. He disrupts passing lanes really well. He's still developing the pass rush arsenal that he has. He has a devastating bull rush, really good swing move, but he really sets a very firm edge, exceptional play strength, consistently excels that bull rush, like I mentioned, uses his raw strength. Really smart player. He sniffs out screens really well. He's really well at batting down passes and reading the quarterback. He's 6'5", 269 pounds with 33 3/4-inch arms. He is the ideal size for a 4-3 defensive end. An excellent, effective swim move. You can kind of tell he played basketball, plays with a relentless motor. I think there's some improvement from previous seasons into 2024. Last year, I wasn't as high on him as I am this year. It's just there's so many pass rushers this year. Like, wow, you have him like 13. Yeah, well, this class is ridiculously deep. His weaknesses in his game, limited pass rush arsenal. He relies a little bit too much on the bull rushes, the power move, the spin move. So he needs to find some more tools in his tool shed. Inconsistent with hand timing. Doesn't have great bend. Plays a little bit too upright. Perfect 4-3 defensive end. I don't know if he really could play very well in a 3-4. but I really think more of the even front that emphasizes gap control is probably where he's going to fit in best. I had a comp to Derek Barnett of the Eagles, or maybe Preston Smith of the Packers is kind of who I had as player comps. So I think he can fit there in the second, third round. I like him. I think he has not a high ceiling as some other guys, but I think he has a lower floor. I think he can come in and be a good rotational piece, maybe develop into a starter at the NFL level. Takes me to number 12 on my list, and that is Jordan Burch, the edge rusher out of the University of Oregon. Taller guy, 6'6", somewhere around that 280 pounds. I had 8.5 sacks last year, 31 tackles. He is a guy who has elite physical traits, right? That 35-inch vertical and that 685-pound squat, man. And he can line up all over from 3 technique to the wide 9, 2-point, 3-point, 4-point stances. Got a power-based rush plan, excels with the bull rush, uses a good long arm move, collapses the pocket well. For his size, he has pretty decent agility, uses the Euro step club. Need to take another swig of my drink over here. Pretty good at setting the edge. He sets a firm edge, uses his hands really well, a good placement. Really effective at batting down passage. The funny thing, for being such a good athlete, he doesn't have great snap anticipation. He doesn't get off the ball well. Really needs some coaching to develop a pass rush arsenal and a plan. May have some moves, but they're kind of underdeveloped. Really relies more on the power moves, though I think he has some athleticism to his game to improve that. So he really needs the pass rush plan. Plays too high at times. Lacks the lower body bulk that you'd like to see for that anchor, and really struggles with consistent hand placement. And he's a little bit older of a prospect. I think he's a good 4-3 defensive end, has some size, power. I think there's some really good potential there. I think a one gap penetrating defense will suit him the best. Maybe if he added some weight, he could play as a base end on a 3-4. I had him comped to maybe a Keon White or a Leonard Williams, but Jordan is a guy who has really high upside. He's another is high upside, high risk guys. I think his floor isn't as high as maybe some of the other guys in this draft. I think like Landon Jackson behind him as a higher floor, but I think he come in, get him as a rotational piece. I think he can develop into a starter, but he has higher upside than being just a starter, maybe a higher upside of being a really, really good starter at the NFL level. So I liked him a lot, just that lower floor for me. Really good guy to take in the third round, get him some coaching, and maybe you can develop him into a really good player at the NFL level. Oh man, I told this is gonna be a long one, right? Oh, I'm gonna lose my voice, and we're only not even halfway through the list. But number 11 is my second of the Ohio State guys. Now, I like Jack Sawyer a lot watching him play. He's a polished, high motor edge rusher, former 5-star recruit, stands, I believe, around 6'5", somewhere around the 260 some pound range. He is a high energy guy. He has a really good developed pass rush arsenal. He has different sets of moves that he uses, and he uses them well with the cross chop rip, good spin move, uses his hands really well. He sets a very strong edge. So he's going to come in. This is why I see him as a guy who has a really high floor. I think he can come in and be an edge number 2 and a 4-3 right from the get-go, because he's a disciplined, really good edge setting defender with a better developed pass rush arsenal. Plays the high motor, just never stops. He's so intense, super smart. He sniffs out RPOs and screens really well. Really good arm length. He has very polished technique. He's been well coached. He's been very durable. Now, where he his issues are. Right? Every player has some issues. Why isn't he higher on the list? I read you that, you're thinking, man, this guy sounds like he should easily be a first-round pick. The problem is he's not athletic, right? So he's like the polar opposite of Landon Jackson, right? You see the pass rush moves, you see some more stuff from him in the ability to get to the quarterback more frequently. Landon is very athletic, and you just haven't seen it on the field. What you see from Jack is what you get, because he just does not have a super high ceiling. He's not super athletic. He's not very powerful. His sack production was average. He's very technical, but he over relies on that. And he just has a limited athletic ceiling to his game. So high floor, low ceiling player, unlike some of the players just behind him in this list. I think you plug him in if you're a team that's drafting him, he's going to be a starter from day one if you need a starter at the defensive end. And I don't think he's a guy you have to break him in. You're going to get an edge setting defensive end with some ability to get to the quarterback. So I think aligning him maybe as a 6 or 7 technique would probably fit best for Jack Sawyer. And I think he is comparable to like a Sam Hubbard of the Cincinnati Bengals, who was drafted in the 3rd round in 2018. That wasn't helmet scouting there. Or maybe a George Karlaftis of the Chiefs, also another technically sound defensive end. I like Jack. He just fits right there. It's probably the best spot for him, right around 11. He's not a first-round type guy, but he's not a high risk, high reward. He is a low risk, low reward, or high reward guy in terms of that you just know you're going to get a really good starter at the NFL level. Number 10 on my list is University of Michigan defensive end Josiah Stewart. Josiah is an explosive undersized edge rusher from Michigan, plays with a relentless motor, really good pass rush technique. He's smaller, right? He's 6'1", 245, 250-ish. He's got that same size that we talked about David Walker. The difference is he has a lot of production in his game, right? He is an explosive first step, elite get off. He instantly threatens tackles vertically. He has a 95.8 PFF pass rush grade against USC this year. Really good polished hand usage. So he's a masterful technician with rips, swims, cross tracks, chops, euro steps. He does a good job at keeping blockers guessing, uses his natural leverage, his compact frame allows him to get low. He plays the game with this hair on fire. It's a relentless motor. And the thing is, he's better at run defense than you think. He has an 84.9 PFF run defense grade in 2023. He's amassed 30 sacks and 46 tackles for loss over his 4 years. He been a captain and showed a little bit of athleticism in coverage. The problem with him is his size, and he doesn't display really great bend, right? He does take wider arcs to the quarterbacks. He does tend to get washed out down blocks and by double teams, limited counter moves. Sometimes he can run himself out of the play, but man, he is fun to watch. He is just productive, and he's been productive at college. He just knows how to get to the quarterback. If I was a guy and I'm drafting, I'm looking at choosing between, say, David Walker and Josiah Stewart. I think the floor for Josiah isn't just a DPA. I think his floor is he can come in, be a rotational piece, but occasionally start if you need him to. You want to play him as an outside stand-up linebacker in the 3-4. I think you can do that. Using him as a wide 9. Maybe you could use him as a situational end in a 4-3. Maybe play as a base end in a 4-3. Play him as a Sam linebacker. I like Josiah Stewart a lot. I think he has the potential to be a really good starting NFL edge rusher. He does have those limitations, right, with his size that maybe he just ends up becoming, a rotational piece on your defensive line, and maybe you don't find the right spot for him to succeed. But man, when you watched him, he just found a way and a knack to make the right play and get to the quarterback. So I had him cracking my top 10 here. And I had a comp to him as like a Hassan Reddick, who was drafted in the first round in 2017, very similar size. So I think that it's a really good comp size-wise. So I like Josiah Stewart a lot. I think, the concern I had with this size kind of got alleviated the more I looked into it. And, I've watched him, obviously, being a Michigan fan. So like Josiah Stewart a lot, one of my guys in this draft. Didn't have him higher up the draft board. If he was 6'4", 6'5", gave me that same sort of production. Now you're talking to top 10 talent. But next up is going to be number 9 on my list, and this is where we're going to start to see some of these Texas A&M guys. And that is Nick Scorton, the edge rusher from Texas A&M. He has a really good blend of size, power, athleticism. He's 6'4", around that 270-pound range. He has an elite physical profile, 33.5-inch arms, prototypical size and length. He should, to dominate as an edge rusher. Explosive first step. He does create instant pressure. He allows him to exploit oversetting tackles, devastating spin move. The signature move, he really uses his footwork well, uses his hands well. He consistently does beat blockers clean. He converts speed to force with his bull rush and using his long arms. He's a pretty good run defender. He had an 80.3 PFF run defense grade in 2024. He lined all over the line from 3-tech out to the wide 9, 2 and 3-point stances, plays the really good motor. He's young. He's still only 21 years old as he goes into this next season. And here's the problem, right? You think that of everything I just read to you, wow, Nick Scorton should be a bona fide first-round pick. And hey, he might be. Someone may take him in the first round. He was inconsistent big time, right? He was really productive at Purdue in 2023, transfers to Texas A&M in 2024, not a lot of production at all. In fact, I don't know if it's the scheme or what they were running there, but a lot of the Texas A&M guys did not have the production that you would hope. Plays too upright, especially in his the 2-point stand. He just doesn't have a really good plan when it comes to pass rushing, right? He relies too much on his spin move and his bull rush. And I just don't see the bend that you would like to see, and inconsistent with his hands. So I think he's best suited to being a base 4-3 defensive end. There's just so much more there that I want to see from him, right? You did see a lot of production there at the University of Purdue, but I didn't see a guy who is a bona fide first-round talent. I have him at number 9. I think he's a decent floor. He's the first guy I had ranked as a second-round grade in my draft board. So I think a one-gap penetrating front would work well for him. Have him shoot the gaps. I think the Patriot style, Saint style would be good for him. I compared him to a little bit of Melvin Ingram or DeMarcus Lawrence as players who I had comp in size and style to him. I want to like him more, but he just leaves you so much more. Like there's more there. I just don't know what he's going to give you right away. Is he going to take some time to develop? He has a high ceiling. I think he's a little bit more developmental than I really wanted him to be, but I would think that his size and length, you'd bank on that more than Josiah Stewart, which I had him a little bit ahead of Josiah. I wish Josiah was just a little bit bigger because, man, he just knows how to rush the passer. So I had Nick Scorton at number 9. And then my next guy on my list here, I'm a little bit different on this guy than most. And I have James Pierce, the edge rusher out of the University of Tennessee. He is a thin guy. He's tall at 6'5", about 245 pounds. He is super thin. You look at pictures of him or watch him on film. I know he's electrifying. He has elite athleticism, an explosive first step. He ran a really good 40 at 4.47. That is sick. fluid bend. He is a really good bender. He has exceptional hip and ankle flexibility. He gets around that corner. He flattens himself right out, dipping under blockers very well. He still has good length, 81-inch wingspan, reads tackles very well, plays with a high motor. He can play in 2 or 3 point stances, rushing from 5 tech to the wide 9. A lot of production, super young. I just worry about that frame, right? You get the guys down earlier who I talked about who are shorter but are stockier. This guy here, he's taller and thinner, and I really worried, is he going to have the strength to anchor against the tackles and the tight end? Almost no power to his game. He's a speed pass rusher, no counter moves, really struggles against the run. He, in big games, where was he? He didn't really show up in big games. Lacks balance, right? He plays too far over his feet. There's been some talk about, character. Is that a real character issue or is it a maturity issue? And the reason I don't have James up higher is I just think there's a risk with him being that thin framed. Is he going to be anything more than a really good designated pass rusher? Can he be an every down edge rusher at the NFL level? I think he's going to do better as a stand-up linebacker in a 3-4 using the 7 or 9 technique. That's where I think he's going to fit the best. I just had some concerns about his game. And it's tantalizing to have a guy who runs that fast that can get to the quarterback, who has height to him, but he just doesn't have the bulk in his game. So I just had some concerns, and that's why I didn't have him as a first-round grade. I mean, he has tremendous upside. Chop Robinson, Dallas Turner, Brian Burns type upside to his game, but I didn't have him as a first-round grade. I know it's definitely a different spot to be than compared to most guys and their draft analysts. So next up on my list is going to be my number 7, and that's going to be Mykel Williams, the edge rusher out of Georgia. He's a physically gifted guy, has really good size, 6'5", but he's about 20 to 25, 30 pounds heavier than my previous guy, James Pierce. Really has the prototypical frame that you're looking for as an edge rusher, a big 82-inch wingspan, explosive power. So he's different. Like Pierce is going to be all speed. Mykel Williams, all power. He converts that speed to force, the bull rush, really good long arm move, drives tackles back. He does a good job at collapsing the pocket. I generated over 20 pressures last year. Really good at setting the edge. He is a brick wall against the run. He's one of the best edge defending edge rushers, defensive ends in this year's draft with an 80.9 PFF run defensive grade, which ranked him top 20 of all the edges in 2024 in college. Played all over the defensive line, 0 tech, stand up, 4-eye, 5-eye, 7-eye, all over that defensive line. Really good motor. He does a pretty good surprising lateral agility and body control for his size. He's young. That's another thing, right? He's not an older prospect. He's a younger prospect. And he excels as a looper, penetrator. Where he lacks, right? The production as a pass rusher, the pass rush plan, again, still relying too much on the power moves, does not have elite get off. His 40 wasn't terrible. Does have some pad level issues, plays too high, has some mental lapses in the run game. He's a big guy, but sometimes he loses his anchor on double teams or when he's rushing to the inside. He doesn't do well at shedding blocks very well. So he's a guy that has the prototypical size you're looking for, absolutely dominant edge rusher, or not edge rusher, run defender from the edge rushing position. Not as high on him as some other guys, mainly because he's going to have to learn to develop a pass rush plan and pass rush moves. He has all the tools athletically and body size that you'd like to see to make that happen. But you're going to get an elite run defending defensive end with some pass rush upside. I have him at number 7 because he's going to be a starter right from day one. You know you're going to guys going to set the edge very, very well. And if he can show more than what he showed at Georgia, develop a pass rush plan, whether it's moving him inside from time to time or playing him as a 4-3 defensive end, I think he has star potential there. But is he going to hit it, right? I don't think that you want to take a guy like that in the top 10 of the draft. Maybe this year's draft's a little different because it's just so strange that there isn't bona fide guys there in the top 10. So that's why I have him as a second round grade. I don't have a first round grade on him, but I think he has the potential. At worst case, you're just going to get a guy who probably is going to play a couple contracts in the NFL as an edge setting defensive end with limited pass rush ability. And then my next guy on my list, I've had him all over my draft board throughout the process. I've had him much higher. I've had him much lower. And I've finally landed right here at this spot at number 6 on my draft board. And that's Princely Umanmielen out of Mississippi. He's a dynamic edge rusher. He's really explosive. He does a good job with a refined pass rush technique. Really good prospect. He's around 6'4", 6'5", right around that 255, 260 range. In 2024, he recorded 10.5 sacks, 14 tackles for loss. Really, really good player. He has an elite first step, right? Creates instant angle advantages, stresses tackles vertically. He had a 91.5 PFF pass rush grade with a 22% pass rush win rate in 2024. He's an exceptional pass rusher. He's got rare hip and ankle flexibility. He's able to dip, so he's got really good bend. He's got a really good refined spin move, right? He sets up people. He uses a little fake, little hesitation. He has a really good neck at beating blockers clean. Does a better job at utilizing his pass rush moves. He's got a lot of tools in his toolbox: cross chops, rips, swipes. He's really deliberate. He has a plan with this game. Plays with a really high motor, good length advantage at 34.5-inch arms with an 81 7/8 wingspan. He recognizes the run game well. He's not as good as some of these other guys that can set the edge on the run, but he can play well at the run. He's lighter. So, I do have that concern about the thinner frame, like you saw with James Pierce, and he does lack strength. Can he anchor? How is he going to do against double teams? Doesn't have a power element to his game, so he's like the polar opposite of Mykel Williams and Landon Jackson, right? James Pierce and Princely are the thinner speed rush guys, so he lacks the power to punch into the pockets. His hand usage is inconsistent. Timing needs to be better. Doesn't shed blocks very well. His pass rush plan, though, he's got tools in his toolbox. He tries to use them from time to time. It can become too predictable. And when he sees stuff that's working, he kind of tries to keep doing the same thing over and over. Little older. He's at 23 by the time the season starts. But I think he can play. He's versatile. I think he can play 3-4 outside linebacker or 4-3, maybe in a wide 9. Utilize that explosive first step. I have him ahead of James Pierce because I think he just has displayed already more production at college, less question marks to his game. At worst case scenario, again, you have a DPA, but I think he's better equipped right now to be a starter if needed be in the NFL right now. I think he's going to be more productive than James Pierce currently. That's why I have Princely ahead of him. He's kind of like, you get through the draft process and sometimes you let the combine and other things influence. But again, always go back to the tape. The Pajama Olympics are not the be all end all. The pro days are not the be all end all. They're part of the process. You put the whole thing together, and I just couldn't not discredit the production that I saw from Princely throughout the season. That's why I have him ranked as my number 6 defensive end in this year's draft. I comped him to like a maybe a Marcus Davenport, but with a thinner frame. So maybe a little bit more Brian Burnsy in the frame with a Marcus Davenport style of play. So I like Princely a lot. I had him as a true second round grade. So I think if he did end up going higher than that, I wouldn't be surprised. And so that gets us pretty close here. We're into our top 5 edge rushers in the 2025 NFL draft. But before we get there, do me a favor, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Hit that notification bell. That way you get notified of all the episodes right when they happen. So don't forget to like and subscribe and share the Draft Beard podcast with all your friends and family out there. So we're going to get to number 5 here. Before I do, I need another little swig of my Gatorade here. So my number 5 guy, he's the guy who started way farther down on my draft board. But the more I watched him, he shot up my draft board. And this is a guy that I'm definitely higher on than the consensus. And that is Braden Swinson, the edge rusher out of LSU. 6'4", about 260 pounds, 33 and 5/8 arms. He was a 3-star recruit. He's 23 years old. He has an explosive first step, right? He challenges tackles instantly, gets to the edge really well, really good, active, precise hands, uses a good two-handed swipe, has a good dip rip combo. He has a very good diverse toolbox, right? Uses speed rushes, power moves, inside counters, good length, which I just mentioned, plays with relentless effort, right? Gets quite a few second effort sacks, really good hustle in the run game. He sets a firm edge, uses leverage and hand placement. He forces those runners inside. 79.6 PFF run defense grade. Uses stunts very well. His production jumped big time from 2023 to 2024. And I'm going to look up really quick. I couldn't remember what Braden's PFF grades are, so I'm going to pop that up really quick here. But love Braden, competitive, intense player. Went from 2 sacks to 8.5 in 2024. The things that concerned you, right? 1-year starter. Why did he only have a rotational role at Oregon early and in LSU? Little bit undersized, not as thin as James Pierce, but right in there with the Princely. He has average bend. He's good, but not elite flexibility. Needs to learn some counter moves. Occasionally misreads runs, over pursues, plays over his skis at times. He loses footing or contact. This is a little bit older of a prospect. That also concerns me. But I thought him as a guy that his trajectory is on the way up. He had a good run defense grade, right? He had a 22.1% pass rush run rate. He had a 90.3 pass rush grade. His grades went up every year. And remember, teams like LSU, Georgia, a lot of these teams, they're always going to have really good players in front of them. And you got to beat good players to become a starter. I just saw a guy whose trajectory was on the upswing. So when I was ranking him comparatively to a James Pierce, Michael, and Princely and Scorton, right? Scorton, I saw some trajectory going down in production. And Braden, I think there's a lot there that I really like that's offering me, a high ceiling type of player. I think he's going to fit best as a 3-4 outside linebacker. Maybe throw him in a wide 9 stand up alignment. If you are looking for a heavy edge setting, 2-gap duty, I think that might work for you if you're running in a 4-3. But I really like Braden Swinson. I just went with the potential there. I think he's going to need a little bit of refinement to his game, but he's a high upside guy. I had a 2nd round grade on him. I would be surprised if I saw him go in the 1st round. Maybe it happens, but there's a lot of different good edge rushers in this draft class. And if you look at my board, like it's not a huge difference between 5 and 10, 5 and 11, 12, but I had Braden as the top of this tier of edge rushers in the 2025 NFL draft, which takes me, we're getting there, the top 4. And so I had this guy kind of in his own tier, and then I had another little tier, and then the guy who's at the top of the draft. And this is a guy I think he's a step ahead of Braden Swinson. I didn't quite give this guy a first round grade, but it was borderline this. Donovan Ezeraku, the edge rusher out of Boston College. He's polished. He is productive. Really good premier pass rusher. He had 16 and a half sacks, 20.5 tackles for loss, 80 total tackles, 3 forced fumbles, and 60 pressures this last year. He has an elite pass rush arsenal. He is ready. He is ready for the pros with swim moves, cross trap, dip, rip, two-hand, inside spin, ghost rush. I mean, he executes his moves with precision. He's got a really good swim move, exceptional bend, explosive first step. If you are not quick to react to him, he's going to gain ground on you fast. He's got violent, well-timed hands. Disengages blockers effectively. Relentless motor, super smart. He sets up rushers with really deliberate pass rush plans, so he knows how to use his pass rush ability. Again, he's another one of these guys, and we're kind of full of them this year, the undersized defensive edge rusher. So he's not going to have any power whatsoever. He does struggle to hold the point of attack and the edge on run defense. He's good, but not great at run defense. He needs some improvement. So he's not going to set the edge as well as other guys out there like Michael Williams. Decent speed, right? Again, he had the production. His trajectory is going up. Kind of does overextend himself from time to time, but I think he's going to be a really good player. I think he can come in right away and be a really good pass rusher from day one. I can understand why some teams out there have him as a first round grade. The PFF had him as a 90 overall last year with an 18.2% pass rush win rate. Really like Donovan Ezeraku a lot. I think he could develop into a defensive end number 1 for you. Could also be a really solid defensive end number 2. I compared him to a Trent Cole, if you remember him back in 2005. Very similar body type, relentless style, same technical finesse. Yannick Ngakoue from the Jacksonville Jaguars, drafted in the 3rd round in 2016, was also similar. Really good technical pass rush plans in both of them. That's my comp for Donovan Ezeraku. He's polished, and that's one of the differences between him and some of the other guys that moves him up the draft board. More polished, smarter, utilizes his pass rush plan better than the guys behind him. So I have him solidly at number 4 in my rankings. Now we're up to my top 3. Now we're getting to my first round graded guys. And this is a guy that's become a little polarizing throughout the process. And that's Shemar Stewart, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M. 6'6", I think around 270, 280 pounds, 83.5-inch wingspan. He has the absolute size you're looking for as an NFL edge rusher. He ran a 4.59 40, so he is a freaky athlete. Dominant edge rushing, edge defender. He stacks and sheds very well, uses his hands. He's going to set an edge very well. Probably right up there with Michael Williams in setting the edge and one of the better edge run defending defensive ends in the draft. He's all power, right? He converts speed with force. He can line up from the 0 tack to the wide 9, lines up all over the defensive line. Surprisingly, is pretty good bend, really good motor, understands and looks out for screens very well. Here's the problem with Shemar, right? He is, if you drew up what you're looking for size-wise and athletically in a lab, that's Shemar Stewart. Here's the flip side, right? It's the production. We've talked about it a lot. Hardly any sacks, but he has a lot of pressures. He does not have a pass rush plan. He really needs to figure out what he's going to do. He has all the athletic ability in the world, doesn't use his hands well, doesn't have a toolbox that you can use, plays with too high of a pad level, has a really high missed tackle rate. That's why you just don't see some of the production. But when you watch him on film, he does consistently move the pocket. He is causing running backs to have to change lanes, have the quarterbacking moving around. It's there. It just hasn't finished. And so I wouldn't take him in the top 10. And I really was hesitant. I was right there back and forth between the second round grade, first round grade. And in the end, that athleticism, that's what you bank on and you look for in the NFL. Get someone who can coach him. At worst case scenario, he is one of those rare time players that has a high floor and also an ultra high Pro Bowl ceiling, right? Because at worst, you're going to get a defensive end number 2 who can set the edge for you and push the pocket, cause some pressures with limited production, right? That's a quality starter in the NFL as your secondary edge rusher, right? That's a good player. That's a player who I felt like could be drafted in the first round and take the risk on the potential. That's what I see in him. I think he's going to fit well into a 4-3, use him as a 5 or a 7 technique. I had a player comp for him is, I don't know if you remember this guy from back in the day, Jonathan Franklin Myers of the Jets, similar size, same power, or a Kwity Paye, who was drafted by the Colts in 2021. I really like Shemar Stewart. He is one of my favorites in this class, just because I think I would bank on the potential where you're already getting something productive, right? So think of Michael Williams and Shemar Stewart. Both of them are going to be very good edge defending on the run defense side. But I think there's a big gap in terms of the athleticism and the ceiling that Shemar Stewart offers, and that's why I have him at number 3 on my list. Now we're getting down there. We're getting into the top 2 of my edge rushers, and that is Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall. Love this guy. Just has excellent speed at a 16.5 pressure rate, 20.2 pass rush win rate. Absolutely love Mike Green. Very athletic. Has a really good deep arsenal of pass rush moves. He's bendy, right? He has loose hips, flexible ankles. He can bend really well. He knows his pass rush plan. He's got arm overs, the cross chops, this spin moves. He knows how to use those really well. So he has a toolbox. He uses it well. Not only that, he's really good at setting up rushes, right? Using those hesitations, not using the same moves over and over, not becoming predictable. At the same time, he can penetrate gaps and he can get inside. He also had a really good PFF run defense grade at 90.2. So this idea that he's just a pass rusher, no, I think he can be both a pass rusher and really good in his run game. He has violent hands. He pops really well. And he's another guy where the trajectory is going up. I know he's a little bit undersized in his frame, it's a little bit smaller arms. He doesn't have the power you'd like to see. It leaves you a little lacking in his inconsistency with his tackling. Overextend sometimes on those speed rushes. There is some off the field talk out there, but I love Mike Green. I think there's a definite gap between Shemar and him. There's a definite gap between him and the next guy on my list, but I think Mike Green will fit well as a 3-4 outside linebacker. Maybe a 3-4, 4-3 hybrid type defense. I kind of compared him to last year's Chop Robinson or a Brian Burns. And I think he's definitely a guy who should go in the top 15 in this draft, maybe even the top 10. And that takes me to my number 1 edge rusher in the 2025 NFL draft. No surprise here. It is the number 1 or number 2 player in this draft, depending on your opinion of Travis Hunter, but he is one 1A, 1B in this draft. He's a dynamic edge rusher. Elite athleticism. We're 4.48 40, lightning fast get off, overwhelms tackles, exceptional bend, exceptional athleticism, 127-inch broad jump, really twitchy change of direction, was on Bruce Feldman's freak list, knows how to use his pass rush plan, has a toolbox, uses it all between the swim moves, inside spin, speed to power, run game. Also can set the edge. He closes really well. He runs sideline to sideline. He's super versatile. He's played as an off-ball linebacker. He's played on the edge. He can line the wide 9, the 5 tech inside. He plays with his hair on fire, and he's young. He's only 21 years old. Again, another one of these defensive ends who isn't bulky or big, a little bit undersized frame, could get better at using his hand, could be better at not overrunning in the run game, recognizing blocks. Sometimes he's a little late in spotting misdirection or pulls, overextends on speed rushes. Only 1 year starting truly at the edge position and not on the outside. Struggles with tackling. He did have a 10% missed tackle rate in 2024. But this guy is your prototypical defensive end. And like others, like when I said about Shamar, athletically built in a lab, that's what you're looking for, right? Abdul Carter has some of that as well. Abdul Carter also has all of the tools in his toolbox, already knows how to use them. So he is the guy, all those little pieces that you hear about other prospects that are farther down the draft board, right? He put them all together, and that's what you get in Abdul Carter. Already has some ability to set the edge, has a pass rush plan, has the athleticism to pull it off. So he has the same type of speed athleticism that you see in James Pierce, but he knows how to use it. I think he can be a 3-down defensive end. He has the potential to be one of the best defensive ends in all of football. I don't think he's going to be on the spectrum, say, of Myles Garrett type, but I think having a Von Miller type ability out there, a Micah Parsons style player as well. The ceiling is so high with Abdul Carter, along with the low floor. It is pretty easy to see why he is the number 1 defensive end in the 2025 NFL draft and one of the best players, one of the very few blue chip players in this draft. I would be really surprised if he fell to 4. I think he's going to go in the top 3. I just can't see him getting to the New England Patriots. If Ward goes 1, Hunter goes 2, I think the Giants take him or trade out of that spot. He is going to be, I think, a special player, and he is by far the best edge rusher in this class and what is a very, very deep edge rushing class. So with that, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I know this was a long one, but the edge rushing class being so deep, I could have covered more. There were a few guys I really would have liked to hit that are going to go in the 4th or 5th round that I still really liked, but there's only so much time in the day, and I don't think you guys want to be here for 2 or 3 hours listening to me ramble on about edge rusher. So thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. It's a lot of fun to talk about one of the best classes as a position group in the NFL draft, and there's going to be quite a few guys you're going to be hearing over the years who are going to be racking up some stacks. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and have a great night.
The Draft Beard Podcast.